What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to High Floor Football. And tonight we are recording a Dynasty rookie mock since it is rookie draft season for everyone now that the NFL draft is over. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wagman. With me is my co host, Jay Arsh. And we're going to go back and forth between the two of us, going through a round 12 team rookie mock draft that is all Superflex. So we're just going to pick 12 teams full of 3 Superflex players each. And we're going to go from there. So 36 total players. And we're going to talk about each pick as we go along. And we're going to go right now. And we're going to start this thing right off. Really, at the start, it's pretty easy. We're going to Bijan Robinson to start because Bijan is simply just the easiest player and seemingly the lowest risk player in this entire rookie draft class for fantasy football. He's going to get a starting role right away, and he is just absolutely perfect. The Falcons want to run the ball. They want to run the ball a lot, and Bijan is probably the perfect guy to go out there and get at least 1,250, maybe even closer to 1,500 scrimmage yards in his rookie year.
Yeah, the lowest risk, maybe even the highest upside too, especially at outside of quarterback. And 102, I'm going to go Anthony Richardson, which I think has pretty much become consensus at this point for the most part. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, it might have seemed a little bit riskier than it does now, but I think the landing spot really solidified that. He goes to Indy. I think it's actually the best landing spot of all 3 of the quarterbacks. He has, some instant weapons there and, a functional organization. Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, and they added Josh Downs in the 3rd round too, which I think is going to be a good addition for them as well. So Anthony Richardson's got a safer floor at quarterback with the rushing ability, and also I think the highest ceiling. I think he's the clear 102. I think he's the clear quarterback 1 in Superflex drafts. And I think he's probably going to be a top 12 quarterback this upcoming season. So I like Anthony Richardson there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The knock on Richardson is that teams thought, or honestly, we thought he wasn't accurate. The Colts obviously don't think that. Shane Steichen, who obviously helped develop Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia the past season, is definitely looking for another version of Hurts, and he absolutely gets it in Anthony Richardson, albeit, close to a couple inches taller, 20 pounds heavier, and probably a quicker runner. Maybe not as creative as Jalen is, but a very, very dangerous runner. At the 103, I think this is another pretty easy pick to go through. It's Bryce Young, and with Bryce Young, it's very simple to kind of think about how good of a quarterback he is despite the diminutive stature. And no, he's not walking into the best situation for fantasy, but neither is CJ Stroud, who probably is the other option at this pick. So Young has the extreme comparison of skill and talent, and he has a couple safe options in Carolina, and a quarterback, a coach in Frank Reich, who's going to allow him to really get his feet under him.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I would take him at the 103. Also at the 104, I'm going to take CJ Stroud off the board as the 3rd quarterback, which you alluded to as well. I don't love his landing spot in Houston. It just kind of is what it is. Houston was going to take one of these quarterbacks. We were a little, confused if it was going to be as early or if they were going to get one later at some point. They were going to add a quarterback. Like I said, I don't love the weapons around. I don't love kind of the situation in Houston. They haven't been the most functional franchise there the past couple of years. And they traded that 24 pick to go get Will Anderson, which is also tough because that could have been a pick they could have used to get CJ a weapon. That being said, in Superflex, I think that, in a vacuum, you got to go for the quarterback. There are some situations where, I do think Jahmyr Gibbs, JSN could be in consideration here, but it is a Superflex draft, and CJ Stroud's probably going to hold value the longest in that sort of situation. So I'm going to go CJ Stroud here at 104. If you just want to put that one in, and then we'll move on to the 105.
Yeah. So for 105, I'm actually going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs here. And I think, again, this is starting to become something that we see a little bit more as we go along here. And despite the fact that Gibbs is under 200 pounds, we have to take into account the high draft capital, and that changes everything. We're looking at guys like JJ Zachariason who have, spoken about, the risk associated with drafting a player like Gibbs. But again, this was pre-draft, and the notion was the player comps that you were getting with a late first / early second round draft capital. That all changes when Gibbs goes at pick, 112, and it absolutely throws everything out of whack. Now you have comps like Christian McCaffrey being thrown into the mix, as guys who are close to that 200-pound mark. And it's important to note that Gibbs might not be as good a runner as a guy like McCaffrey, but he's absolutely as good as pass catcher as McCaffrey, can run routes. And it's clear the Lions agree with that. They were quick to ship DeAndre Swift out to the Philadelphia Eagles, the day after that trade happened. And it's clear to me that they think Gibbs is the guy. So I do think, despite the fact that they signed David Montgomery, that Gibbs is going to feature very heavily and could honestly be a top 12, top 15 back in year one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the draft capital definitely swayed our perception of how high Gibbs was going to go. I think prior to the draft, it was more around that, it's still similar range, from like the 105 to 107. But I think because, going top 15 as a running back, when you look at the track record of these guys, I mean, it's like you said, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley. I mean, all these guys have had success in the NFL, at least in one way or another. And I think he slots in perfectly to be the next guy in that area. And like you said, as well, they were pretty quick to get rid of DeAndre Swift and clear things up a little bit for us. So I'm expecting big things from Gibbs as well, and I think that's a good pick at 105. 106, I'm going to pick Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I do think is still in consideration at 105. I don't think that it's a lock to go Gibbs over him. Like I said, I liked your pick as well. But I actually liked the JSN spot a little bit more than I think other people did. I think of it almost like a puzzle piece. It's like he fits perfectly into what the Seattle offense doesn't have. You have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett on the outside. JSN fits right in. Tyler Lockett, is 31 years old or going on 31. They have an out in his contract after this year, which I don't know if they're going to, execute or not. But I just think that JSN is sort of the predecessor there in that receiving room. Comes off the board as the first receiver in the draft as well. And we love the player. And it's also like, in Dynasty, we always kind of talk about, everybody does, is, it's talent over situation. And I really don't think the situation's bad. I think that, everybody was so excited about JSN where, we were already kind of like locking him in to go to Green Bay, which I don't know if it would have been necessarily a better situation or not. We'll talk about the guy who landed in Green Bay a little bit later. But, Jason landed in Seattle. I think it's a good spot. And I think he's the clear wide receiver one still in this draft as he was pre-draft.
Yep, I definitely agree there. But I think once you get past wide receiver one, it becomes a little murky. So 3 wide receivers went off one after another in the early 20s. And those were obviously Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and Quentin Johnston. And I think I got the order wrong there. But still, these are 3 very talented receivers. And, the Quentin Johnston pick was a bit of a shock. Given the fact that he wasn't invited to the green room. Teams thought he might fall out of the first round. The perception was certainly there. The betting line was certainly there. It was set pretty firmly at 3.5 wide receivers. They all assumed that JSN, Flowers, and Addison would all go in the first round, but weren't quite sure about Quentin Johnston. Well, he went to the Chargers and landed in, a pretty good landing spot there. And Tom Telesco loves his big guys. Pretty much drafted a Mike Williams clone who can run quickly and might not fall down as much. But, with me, I tend to think Johnston's going to sit a little bit. And I do think this debate comes down to which play, what are you more comfortable with? Are you a team that, can afford to wait a little while? Are you kind of running the productive struggle route, or are you a team that's built to contend right away? And I think if you're built to contend, and I think a lot of teams are going to be, in this scenario that are picking at the 107, I think you have to go with a guy like Jordan Addison here, because Addison is the guy that's going to slot almost immediately into a very strong target share in Minnesota. He's going to be behind Justin Jefferson. He's probably going to be behind TJ Hawkinson, but after that, it's wide open. And this is a role that Adam Thielen has enjoyed for years. Running out of the slot, running out of the Z, guy gets targeted very heavily in the red zone. I think that everything about Addison screams that he is ready for the NFL. This was one of your favorite wide receivers as well. And I think the landing spot really couldn't have been better. Again, I do think Zay Flowers might turn out to be a better dynasty player overall, but I do think he's in a little bit of a tougher situation to kind of earn the same target share that we're going to see Jordan Addison probably get in year one and possibly year two. So I think if you're at this spot, you're most likely a semi to strong contending team that is going to look to be upgrading right away. And I definitely think Addison is the play for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Addison a lot. So for me, it's really like it's JSN, it's Addison, and then there's kind of a break before the next couple of guys. And I loved Addison pre-draft too, and I totally agree. I mean, I think he landed in like one of the best spots there was. I mean, I think if any of these four receivers landed in Minnesota opposite Justin Jefferson, we would have been excited. And thankfully, it was a guy like Jordan Addison, who a lot of us like pre-draft as well. So I like him there for sure. I mean, it's an easier decision, I think, for me taking him over those other two. But I understand totally that the situations of the other two are advantageous as well. And that makes my pick a little bit tougher at 108 because I do think this gets a little bit more interesting. And I will take Quentin Johnston with this next pick. And for a lot of the things that you said, I do like Zay Flowers as well. I think he's a very fun player. I'm interested to see how he's used in the NFL. He also got, good draft capital as well. Going in the first round, like a lot of people, kind of said, and he was rumored to go pretty early. He's actually rumored to go, maybe even top 15 when it got closer to the draft. So the Zay Flowers hype really picked up around the league. But yeah, I mean, I view, having Justin Herbert and kind of the situations with their wide receivers. I mean, Keenan's getting a little bit older. Mike Williams' contract, he got an extension pretty recently, but there are, ways for the Chargers to maybe get out of that. He also has had trouble staying on the field. And I think Quentin Johnston's a good fit there to be either the predecessor to those guys or to kind of fit in with them as well with kind of a need that the Chargers had. I think he adds a little bit more like speed to their offense and that they've been lacking.
Mm-hmm.
So I like him there. You can put me down for Quentin Johnston, but it's a really tough decision between him and Zay Flowers for me. And it's really between those two. So, I mean, I don't really have somebody else that I would take at this spot. It's between those two, and I'll lean Johnston for now.
It's kind of funny that you say that. And I think my next pick actually might shock you a little bit. It's not Zay Flowers. It's because, I know what I said. I know that, I said Addison would be slightly ahead of, Flowers and Johnston for me. But I actually have another guy that I'm actually slotting right in there. And it's kind of out of left field a little bit. But this, the Buffalo Bills have absolutely shown that they value the slot extremely heavily. You know what Dalton Kincaid is? He's a 6'5" slot receiver that weighs 245 pounds and can run slot routes. And I think the Bills are going to feed him like they fed Cole Beasley 2 years ago. I just think he's going to get so many targets out of the gate. I don't think he's going to do a lot of blocking. I think they have a couple guys on the roster for that already. Guy like Tommy Sweeney. Hell, they had Dawson Knox blocking a ton last year. And you remember how pissed off I was about that, being a big Dawson Knox fan. But they drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round, and I just think the fit is absolutely perfect. We saw last year that Gabe Davis was quite simply just not the guy, and I really think that is a huge thing to take into account here. This is a situation where Kincaid can step into an offense that has consistently been one of the top 5 in the league and potentially be the second option right off the bat. So that makes this pick at 109 an absolute smash for me. So, and again, I'm going to bring it right back. Flowers, for me, he might sit a little bit. And I don't know if he'll necessarily sit. I don't know if that was necessarily the right term, but I think I think he's going to have a little bit of a tougher path to consistent target share. Mark Andrews is there. Odell Beckham is there. Healthy Rashad Bateman. I mean, and this is an offense that's going to be switching to a brand new scheme for the first time in many years. And we don't know how Todd Monken's scheme is going to look. We can be sure it's going to be better than Greg Roman's, but we can't be sure by how much. So for me, I'm going with a guy that I think is a very good player. I think Kincaid was probably the best pass catching tight end in this draft. I thought he would slip a little bit more due to his medicals. He did not. And for that reason, gets the first round draft capital and the 109 pick on my board.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't when you said it was going to be a surprise from the wide receivers. I was pretty sure that's where you were going with it, but it's a good pick, and I think that going to the Bills is an ideal landing spot for him, and especially that they moved up to get him. It seemed like they moved up in front of the Cowboys specifically to get him. Well, yeah,
I think, and there were a lot of rumors that the Cowboys liked both
yeah.
him and Mayer. The fact that they went with Schoonmaker is kind of nuts to me, but we can get into that later.
I had Dallas taking Kincaid in my mock draft in the accuracy, contest. So I mean, I really wish that he lasted one more spot and went to Dallas. But
do you really though?
But Buffalo scooted ahead and got him. I'm not concerned about them one way or the other. But you can put Zay Flowers on the board for me. I get it. And, it hasn't been as fruitful when wide receivers go to Baltimore. It hasn't been a landing spot that we're necessarily, wishing upon the wide receivers that we like. But I do think that there is going to be a different situation there now. I think this whole negotiation, bringing Lamar back, getting him back in the building, the additions they've made, getting Odell Beckham, paying Odell Beckham, going back to the first round to take a wide receiver. I mean, any Lamar Jackson fan out here can remember for years we wished for Baltimore to invest highly in a wide receiver. Right. It took forever for that to happen, and they did it with Rashad Bateman. Then they come right back and do it with Zay Flowers. So, like you said, Odell, Bateman, Mark Andrews, they're all there. But Odell misses time, he at least has in these past couple of years. He's a little bit older now. Bateman, unfortunately, has also missed some time early in his career. And I think Zay Flowers plays almost like a completely different role than those guys will in this offense. I think they're going to use him creatively. So put Zay Flowers on the board for me.
Okay. All right. Well, after that, it kind of gets a little bit murky, right? So, we have some guys there, that's pretty much the end of the first round guys. There are options there, but I think after that, we kind of have to go to the next quarterback on the board. And, look, he fell out of the first round. Yeah, I know you are. He fell out of the first round. That never bodes well. Christian Hackenbergs of the world, the Connor Cooks of the world, all these guys that fell into the early, edge of the second round, and they did not see fruitful careers. So, this pick comes with some trepidation to it. I will say that, but I feel like you have to put Will Levis in here. This is still a super flex draft. He's going to be starting. There's a decent chance they unload Tannehill, at some point in the next couple months. If not, I'm pretty sure he's gone by the trade deadline anyways. But either way, the Titans have signaled they're open for business with him. They're ready to move him out of there. I had a dream that they took like 2 4th-round picks for him. Literally in my dream. So when that happens, just call me the Oracle. But I have to take Will Levis here. The pass catching situation is rough. We get it. But I do think Levis is going to run a little bit. I think he can add some value with his legs. So there's some base value there. It's not a terrible thing. He'll have Treylon Burks who flashed at times. He'll have Chigo Okonkwo. And, outside of that, there's not much there. But for Levis, it's a spot to grow. He'll have a chance at the very least. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't been a Will Levis fan throughout this entire process, but it's been kind of what I've been saying, at least with it, is I'm not going to have him. I'm not going to invest in him, but I'm prepared to be wrong, if I am wrong about it, especially a quarterback that goes to a situation like you said in Tennessee where he could be playing sooner than later. They have, the infrastructure at least to get him on the field. So he's got to get into the first round. I don't love taking him, but at the 111, it's a good value.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my RB3 off the board here at the 112, and that's Kendra Miller. At this point, I mean, based on kind of all the pre-draft process with him, which we didn't get to see too much, unfortunately. But then the Saints still, the Saints didn't get to see that much either. He didn't do a lot of the testing. Saints had no problem investing with him as a fourth RB off the board behind Charbonnet, who I just don't love that spot for him. I wasn't a big Charbonnet fan coming into this whole thing. So I like Kendra Miller at the 212. And I think that he could, have immediate playing time. I mean, Alvin Kamara will have to wait and see, but it looks like he's going to, face some sort of suspension this offseason. They have Jamal Williams. I like Kendra Miller to get on the field early and potentially be, the future of this Saints backfield with as early as they took him in the draft as well. Getting the third round draft capital it's a big plus for him. So I'm going to wrap up the first round with him as my RB3.
I agree. All right. So that is Kendrick Miller there, and that's the whole first round. So only 3 running backs. This was not a huge running back class. I think there was a lot of concern about the depth of the running back class, and I think that definitely showed throughout this whole draft. Moving on to the second round, I would be loath to pick Charbonnet here. Even a guy like A-Chain, don't love that. I'm going to go with another tight end here, and I think Sam Laporta is going to play a massive role in Detroit, similar to how I thought Kincaid was going to play a massive role in Buffalo. The Laporta pick's a little bit weird. So, this is a staff that really didn't use TJ Hawkinson the best way, but he also wasn't a pick from their, that front office. And there was a chance that maybe they weren't quite as fond of him as, as fantasy managers might have been. And I don't know if that's something that people have really taken into account, but Laporta, be going right in the top 35 there and ahead of Michael Mayer is definitely a sign that they really liked him. And I do think that he's going to see an immediate impact in this offense, especially with Jameson Williams suspended for the first 6 games of the season.
All right, nice. I am going to go to running back here. And as much as I said I didn't like him over Kendra Miller, I will take Zach Charbonnet here at the 202. I hate the landing spot. I hate that Seattle did this. At the same time, they did it. They invested in him early in the second round.
Oh God, you Kenneth Walker fans, you're all screwed. You're all screwed.
One thing I will say, not to toot my own horn on this, I didn't do too many drafts pre-draft, but I mean, people were picking Charbonnet at like the 107, 108, and I didn't understand any of that.
I never understood that either.
I just didn't get him going over like some of these wide receivers, and then they go in the first round, and people are still trying to like lock on to taking him at the end of the first, and I'm like, just let it go. I mean, he went. This was a terrible, terrible spot for him to go. That being said, at the 202. I think that, like I said, I don't like that they did it, but they did it. And they're going to find a way to get him on the field too. I think he's going to be used a little bit more as a pass catcher than Kenneth Walker is or should be. And I think the Seattle offense is good. Like I was kind of saying with JSN earlier in the first round. I think they're kind of loaded right now with a lot of good talent. So give me Charbonnet at the 202.
Will they use him as a pass catcher though when they picked up Keaton Mitchell? Or not Keaton Mitchell, Kenny McIntosh, who was a pass catcher at Georgia.
In the 7th round or the 6th round?
Are you gonna pretend? Are you gonna pretend that running back draft capital matters?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they picked Charbonnet in the 2nd round, so I don't know. I don't think that's crazy if he can be the Travis Homer or the DJ Dallas of the offense. If that makes you feel better.
Well, I'm gonna go with another running back here, and I'm a decent fan of the landing spot. I'm not sure that he's ever gonna be more than a part-time player, but you gotta think that Devin A-Chain, Mike McDaniel's got some creative plans for how he wants to use this kid, in the same offense as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, both of whom are yards after the catch guys, and that's exactly what A-Chain is as well. I mean, he is absolute, just light the fuse and let him run all around as he will. And that's exactly what he wants to do. 4.38 speed. You absolutely got to love it. And in an offense as creative as Miami, I absolutely love the landing spot. Yes, they brought back Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and Salvan Ahmed for some odd reason. Can't tell you yet, but I don't care. I think you're gonna see some opportunities where Achane's used in the slot. You might see him split out wide. You might see him moved all around the formation. He's gonna be jet sweeps, motion plays. McDaniel is going to be extremely creative with this kid. And I think, he might be a part-time player that really frustrates fantasy thing on your team.
Yeah, I think the other thing with him too is, I mean, he's like literally the Mostert insurance for that offense too. If
Yeah.
Mostert's not playing, I mean, he fits right into that same role. So I'm up at the 204. I'm going to take Jaden Reed, the wide
Damn you.
receiver for the Green Bay Packers. A lot of things to like about him. I mean, pre-draft, a lot of people that I like, a lot of people that I trust, and Matt Harmon and Matt Waldman and JJ Zachariason. I mean, he was a guy that they all
Yeah, I
liked,
see
but
you didn't mention me there.
expect expected to go later. And he went pick 50, which was pretty awesome. What was it? The 4-5. He was
Sixth
the sixth
receiver, I
wide
believe.
receiver off the board after Jonathan Mingo, which was great. And it was not only that he went that early, he went to a spot that has seemingly an opening for him. I mean, it's Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs maybe, and Jaden Reed. And Christian Watson's success, a lot of it, came with Aaron Rodgers last year. Same with Romeo Doubs. Now Jaden Reed's going to come in with the new quarterback, high draft capital, and he's versatile in terms of where he can play at the wide receiver position. I really like him here. I think that, he's going to be somebody who produces pretty early. And I like getting him here in terms of a lot of these running backs. The next couple guys that are coming up are kind of in the same group for me. And a couple receivers that I'm kind of debating over with Jaden Reed, but I like Jaden Reed over them. So I'm going to take him here at the 204.
Yeah, and look, I love Jaden Reed as well. I've made it a point to leave as many drafts with him as I could. I think I've gotten him in 2 out of 6 so far. I was happy with that. I'm a big Jaden Reed fan. I have been, and I really got a chance to break him down when our buddy Alfredo Brown from Football Guys stopped by a few weeks ago, and he was in his top 10 as well. So really like that. After that, I'm not a huge fan of this player, but we have to take the draft capital into account here. And, the fact that he's going to be playing with, a similar rookie quarterback, but when that quarterback is Bryce Young, it tends to alleviate some of my fears. So I'll take Jonathan Mingo here at the 205. And I don't know if I'm going to regret not taking Michael Mayer here, but I do think Mingo. So. And we're talking about Matt Harmon while we're on the subject. If you take a look at his reception perception profile, I know what everyone said. 60% AJ Brown, he'll be great. But maybe AJ Brown isn't the comp we're looking for. Maybe it's someone a little more along the lines of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Move him inside. Let him be that big slot who runs the curl routes really well, because on his reception perception profile, that was the route he ran the most and had the most success with. So that's something that's interesting to me. Amon-Ra loves to run a lot of those little button hooks, 10 yards out, turn around, and then take the ball and run a little bit more. He loves those, and he does really well at them. I think that's something that Mingo could do really well with as he works to kind of develop a route tree in Carolina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured that pick was coming up soon. Him and Reed are going similarly in a lot of these rookie drafts. I'm going to take Mayer at this next pick at the, what is it? The 206. 206. So I'll take Michael Mayer there. Actually cashed a bet on Mayer to the Raiders, which was fun. So I liked that. That was fun. But, he fits into an interesting spot also. I mean, he went off the board as a third tight end, which was a little surprising to both of us who had him going off as the first wide receiver or first tight end. That being said, it's, his competition's Austin Hooper and OJ Howard and an offense that, typically has used a tight end. I mean, Josh McDaniels has liked his tight ends and Jimmy Garoppolo likes those short area targets. So I like Michael Mayer there. I think that, it kind of became overblown in a sense where he, like I said, we thought he was going to go early. There were other people that kind of thought he was going to fall a little bit. He did fall. And I think now that he fell further than people thought, everyone's kind of taken a step back and is like, oh, why did he fall? And it might have just been, Laporta and Kincaid were favored over him. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And he doesn't have the, his exciting athletic profile. But I think with Las Vegas, he fits into a role that he should be able to win from day one, in my opinion, and get on the field early.
Yeah, I thought Mayer was the best all-around tight end in this draft. Truthfully, I have no problem taking him starting at the 202 over. I have no problem even taking him over Laporta in some cases. I just think Laporta is a more safer tight end to contribute right away, and I think Mayer may be asked to do some more blocking than fantasy people are comfortable with right out the gate due to the lack of pass catching and offensive line talent on that Raiders team. But I honestly have no problem with it. I also have no problem with my next pick. And my next pick is going to be pretty easy. One of my personal favorite wide receivers in this draft. And I thought he went to a pretty good landing spot. You can make your case however you feel. But it does seem like the Broncos are, determined to move one of their many wide receivers in this room. And no matter whether it happens soon or not, I think it's going to happen. So they seem to draft Marvin Mims specifically to be a field stretcher. That's the kind of role that he's going to play best at. But this is a guy who absolutely blazes down the field whenever he plays. One of the best high school players that Texas has ever seen. One of the best college players that Oklahoma has ever seen, and he's ready to do it right in the NFL. Got the second round draft capital. It's always a huge thing as well. They traded up to take him right at the end of the round, and I do think that Mims is going to play a role right away. It'll be interesting because Sean Payton loves his offense, and he's very creative with it. I'm intrigued to see what kind of creative things he uses with Marvin Mims.
Nice. All right. At the 208, I'm going to go with Josh Downs. Take him off the board. He's somebody that I was kind of struggling with, him or Jaden Reed. We were kind of waiting for Josh Downs to come off the board in the draft. Some people thought he was going to go earlier. I think most people thought he was going to go earlier than he did. It was one of those things that was kind of worth the wait for me. Similar to JSN's landing spot where it's like, it seems like there are a couple guys ahead of him. He fits in a different position kind of than those guys do. So I think that, coming in with Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs can kind of play all over the place, play in the slot. He can play outside even for a smaller guy. And I think that they're happy to get him. It seemed Reggie Wayne was, really pumped to get him, their wide receiver coach. He seemed really pumped. They bring in Anthony Richardson too. So I like Josh Downs here. He'll have to kind of be an outlier in terms of his size, being like 5'9" and 170. So there's not too many of those guys that have had success in the NFL. But the NFL is changing. A lot of these smaller guys are having a little bit more success than the historical, comps that we want. Like even guys like, Rondale Moore last year. I mean, before he got hurt, he was actually having a pretty good season. A guy.
What?
Are you sighing and rolling your eyes at Rondale Moore?
No.
He was having a pretty good season. So
okay, yes.
He was.
You know why I rolled my eyes, but go on, carry on.
I don't, but I'm not a huge Rondale Moore guy, but I'm just saying there have been some of these smaller receivers that have had some success, at least more than in the past. So I'll take Josh Downs here.
Yep, I love it. And again, huge Josh Downs fan. I think I'm a little bit more of a Josh Downs fan than you are. I'd like to probably claim. And again, another guy who I'm desperate to leave all my drafts with. And I witnessed him go at the 303 where I had the 305 in a draft a couple hours ago. I was absolutely dismayed. I was trying to trade up for an hour to get this guy and nobody would trade with me. I just think that Downs is the perfect fit for this offense. I think they love to target. I think Steichen will love to target the slot with him. And remember, Josh Downs had the best contested catch rate of any wide receiver in this class. That's at 5'9". Like that's a huge deal. So I'm really hyped for Downs. I think he's going to fit really well with Anthony Richardson, and I'm really looking forward to the fit there.
If you loved him so much, you should have taken him over Marvin Mims.
So, anyways, at the 210, at the 209, sorry, I am going to roll with the future RB1 of the Chicago Bears, which absolutely pains me to say, but probably true at this point. I mean, look, he got fourth round draft capital, so it's the dreaded day 3. It might not work out, but look, if this guy wasn't sitting behind Bijan Robinson for 2.5 years, probably is, drafted a lot higher in this draft because people would have, seen a lot more out of him. But Roschon Johnson just happened to have the unfortunate, landing spot of behind one of the best running backs of the last 5 years. So, but he still posted amazing efficiency numbers. And plus he's built like a tank, 6'2", 220. I mean, he's an absolute tank. And he runs low to the ground. He's got good contact balance. He can catch the ball a little bit. I think he profiles as a little bit better pass catcher than Khalil Herbert right out the gate. They did sign Travis Homer too, if I do remember correctly. So it's going to be a little bit of an ugly timeshare in Chicago to start. This is a team that likes to run the ball though, and Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery. The Bears couldn't figure out who to give the ball to, despite that Khalil Herbert was clearly outplaying David Montgomery last season. So I take that as kind of a sign that they're going to be willing to work Roschon in and give him a nice safe carry load pretty quickly here, and wouldn't be shocking to see him take it over real quick.
Yeah, I like that pick. That's what I was going to take if you didn't. At this next spot, I'm going to take him off the board. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take Rashee Rice. I don't love it. I don't love, taking him here, but we're at the, back half of the second, and you don't want to have the good teams just sway you to, which player you're taking. But I mean, last year, for instance, if you talk about Sky Moore was going at like the 1.7, 1.8 last year. So that's where the big mistake came in chasing the landing spot. If you're getting Rashee Rice at the end of the second, early third, little bit lower risk with still the upside of he does play with Patrick Mahomes now, which is helpful. I think we had Alfredo on as well. We were talking about
he had him at 10.
Yeah. But a lot of screens, not a really wide route tree for Rashee Rice, but in Kansas City, something that you can find success. A lot of these, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire found success in Kansas City at times, and I mean, we know he's not a great player. So you're close to the red zone a lot. You're in a high-scoring offense, and there's an opportunity there. So at the end of the second here, I'll take Rashee Rice.
Yep, not a bad pick at all. I think you kind of have to swing the hammer at that point and just take the risk, because it is Patrick Mahomes. He elevates everyone around them. There may be no true star except for Travis Kelce, but if the guy can get a consistent red zone share, I think that's all you want to see out of him at that point. I think you'll be happy if you get 6-7 touchdowns out of him. After this, it kind of becomes difficult. And much like the end of the first round, there's a very clear drop off at this point. And, I don't feel comfortable taking a guy like Tyjae Spears. I'm not sure if I'm ready to take a guy like Jalen Hyatt. And I think I have to roll with the new RB2 of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's Tank Bigsby. And look, we are longtime Eagles fans. We know all about the predilections of Doug Peterson. One of those predilections is that Doug Peterson loves his committee running backs. Absolutely loves them as much as he loves his Haagen-Dazs ice cream. There ain't a committee on the planet that Doug Peterson would not smile at. So when he took Tank Bigsby, it's absolutely clear to me that this dude's going to see a good amount of playing time right away. And look, he's a good player. We wanted him on the Eagles. And look, with a name like Tank, you can't not be somewhat decent. And this is a guy who had first round buzz through the NFL draft for a long time, while at Auburn. And while it didn't work out that way, he did get the day 2 capital going at number 88 in the third round. So sign me up for Tank Bigsby. I said all along, Travis Etienne is not a 3-down running back. Stop drafting him like it. I said it all last year. I'll say it I said it all this offseason, and I continue to stick by it as, a member of the anti-Travis Etienne fan club. Give me Tank Bigsby. I think this guy's going to have at least 150 carries this year.
Hey, have some fun. Travis Etienne's fun. Here at the 212, I'm going to take, which I don't love, but I'm going to take him here. And it's Jalen Hyatt at the 212. Just, again, it's sort of similar to Rashee Rice. I mean, not really, actually. He's not playing with Patrick Mahomes. But he's in an offense.
You're comparing Daniel Jones.
He's in an offense that needs somebody
Jesus,
like him.
Turn your Eagles card.
He needs somebody like him in that offense. They have a lot of little guys running around, a lot of short kings, as Sam would say. You've got Wan'Dale Robinson, they've got Paris Campbell, they've got a lot of guys that are kind of the same type of short area guys, short area targets. So a guy like Jalen Hyatt at least can be a field stretcher for them, and maybe hit some big plays. And he's a guy that we're really knocking for valid reasons. Cedric Tillman goes out, another guy that I would like in this spot. The Tennessee offense being Mickey Mouse offense, all this stuff. He still produced a ton last year. And again, another thing where it's at the 212. We're not taking him at like the 108, 109 here. It's not a high risk play, but it is a high reward play. So give me Jalen Hyatt here, and let's roll through this third round.
Yep, absolutely. And after that, things start to really take a tumble. So, you now have your choice of the Green Bay Packers' new tight ends. You have a running back with no ACL. You have a couple fifth round guys, in sketchy situations. You have a sixth round wide receiver that probably should have been a first a couple years ago. You have a lot of options here. You have a QB who honestly may never see the field because he's been comped to a certain Cleveland Brown quarterback that was too old to play the game. You have a lot of different options here, but at the end of the day, I feel like you have to go with a guy who's probably going to see the most amount of playing time right away. And to me, that's Israel Abanikanda. And this is a little bit of a sketchy pick for me to make it the 301. I think it's a little bit early for Abanikanda, who was a fifth round pick. But I love his skill set. Like it just speaks to me. He's like, think of him as Rashad Penny if Rashad Penny like never got injured. And you kind of get that with Israel Abanikanda, home run hitter, in that kind of mold. He can catch passes, but it's not his strength. There's a lot of projection with Abanikanda, who he's 20 years old. He's one of the youngest players in this draft. So that's another thing for me. His youth will allow him to have a little bit more tread on the tires, I think. And we've seen him really ball out at Pittsburgh. So I think that the team might choose to take it slow. There was a lot of rumors they were in on Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe Breece Hall isn't as far along as in his recovery as we were led to believe. But either way, I think this is, a spot where the team will prefer to have Abanikanda split some snaps with Breece Hall upon his return. And I think he'll get some playing time right away.
All right, my next pick, I'm going with Cedric Tillman, who I really could have taken with the last couple of picks. I would consider him over Rashee Rice. I would consider him over Jalen Hyatt. I like Cedric Tillman. I like him coming in. I liked him pre-draft, as did a lot of the people we had on our show as well. Had good things to say about him. And I actually like the landing spot in Cleveland. It seems crowded right now, but again, with Dynasty talent over the situation, I actually don't think the situation is so bad. It's Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones could be gone in a year based on his contract as well. And Cedric Tillman could fit outside across from Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore in the slot. And I think he's a guy who's going to be able to find the field a little bit quicker. And he's a red zone threat, big guy. I like him here in the third, and I think you could take him anywhere from kind of that back end of the second to the early third.
Yep, I don't hate that at all. I'm a fan of Tillman. I think that people were putting Hyatt over him without really giving him the benefit of the doubt. So I like that. I'm going to go with another running back right here, and it's probably not the one you think it is. But Joe Mixon has had his ups and downs in Cincinnati the last 6 months. times where we thought he was going to be arrested, times where we thought he was going to be cut, times we thought he killed a kid. It's read like a reality show with Joe Mixon the last couple months, which was no surprise to me that they drafted a running back, albeit again in the fifth round, but still, this is a team that used Samaje Perine pretty heavily last year. And I don't think he has the receiving capability of Samaje Perine, quite frankly. But Chase Brown does seem like a guy who's pretty interesting to me. So I think there's a chance that he could play right away. And I think there's a chance that he could see, some passing down snaps and some change of pace work on the ground as well. So as you can tell, I'm just afraid to take the other running back right now.
And I'm going to take him. I'm going to take Tajay Spears, who I'm low on too. I mean, we're both low on him. He's going here at the 304, which is much lower than some others have him. I saw a guy from like Dynasty Nerds having him like 107, 108, and I like lost my mind. It was ahead of Jordan Addison. I commented on it, and I was like, "What are we doing here?"
After the draft, too.
After the draft, it was
that is egregious.
It was dangerous. I won't name names, but
yeah,
we know you can find it somewhere. But I don't love the Tajay Spears spot in Tennessee. I don't think he really has too much long-term value there. I'll give my quick take on it is I don't think he's going to see enough time on the field this year with Derrick Henry barring any injury that he's going to be able to hold off them from adding another running back next offseason. Like what? And that's where it goes for me. I mean, he's somebody that people were really excited about as a prospect. I never really bought into that as much as, I wanted to see what's going to happen. And I just think to be one of these rookies that goes in like those mid rounds, like some of them do, now if you're not one of those top 3 or 4 guys, you got to see the field at least to show why you're worth that value. And I just don't think he's going to really get to enough to where Tennessee is going to be like, this is our guy after Derrick Henry. It's like, okay, right. Well, he might be a body in the running back room. And like you've said, he's struggled with injuries throughout his time in college as well. So give me Tajay Spears on the board. I don't love it, but at the 304, it's time for him to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. I think it's definitely getting thin. I think you got to take guys who are projected to play at some point. At this point, I think it's very worrisome that they already think he has arthritis. Like we're coming straight up on it's collision course with like Todd Gurley territory really quickly. I hate that for him because he looks like a really talented player, but
totally, yeah.
Just it's some things you can't control there. And that's one of them. Look, after that, it's very hard for me to really love anybody else in this draft, but I am going to take a guy who, and I think it's a little bit early for him. Really early. It is early for him. I'll rephrase it. But again, it's the third round. It's the middle of the third round. We want the high upside guys at this point. And it's really tough for me to not love Evan Hull. And the landing spot is very intriguing to me in Indianapolis. Now, stop me if you heard this before. Running quarterback helps elevate all the running talent around him, right? We saw it last year with Jalen Hurts. It just naturally happens. Teams, think they're defending one thing. The other guy gets the handoff and goes back and forth like that. And we saw we even saw Anthony Richardson, kind of check down and bail out a couple times last year to his running backs when he didn't have it. He shows that recognition ability to know when he needs to dump the ball off. I think that Evan Hull is a potential 3-down back. And to me, it's very simple. I think that Jonathan Taylor can honestly have a significant amount of risk to not only have an injury, but just be overworked. And I think the Indianapolis coaching staff from a few years ago noticed that, and I think it was kind of noticed last year. I think they just don't want to overwork him, and this is an NFL where a lot of teams don't care for having a 3-down full-time workhorse back, and I think Evan Hull will get plenty of opportunities to spell Jonathan Taylor this year. I think it'll be very easy for him to beat out Zach Moss, for the backup job. And I think Hull's really talented. He was on a bad Northwestern team. So I'm going to take Evan Hull. It's definitely early, but I don't care.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna go with Hendon Hooker here. It's another one where I feel like it's about time. You could take him,
Thank
back
God.
end of the second, early third. We're talking about a superflex league, and Hendon Hooker's got, there's a lot of reasons not to like Hendon Hooker, which I understand. Like we talked about with Jalen Hyatt, like we talked about with Cedric Tillman. The offense at Tennessee was a little bit different. Hendon Hooker really hit in that offense for this last year. He's like 29 years old, whatever he is.
It's like 35.
But
And
realistically,
still somehow younger than Bayless Jones.
Realistically, what is he? He's 26 years old.
25.
25 years old, so he'll be 26 by the end of the season.
Mhm.
But it's a situation where, we'll see what happens with Jared Goff. I mean, there's been some rumors the Lions are going to extend him. They seem to really like Jared Goff. They've said that plenty of times. At the same time, they did pick a quarterback, and they didn't pick him early, but they did pick him. And if Jared Goff regresses at all this year, if, they don't give him any sort of extension or any sort of long-term commitment, Hendon Hooker could at least be next in line. I mean, look what happened with Desmond Ridder. Like, we didn't think Desmond Ridder was actually going to be the starter this year, and he is.
Is he though?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, unless you know something I don't, it's going to be him or Taylor Heineke by the end of the season, which I think is very possible. I have a lot of best ball teams based on that. But getting back on topic, is you could say all these things like, yeah, we didn't think he's going to play. We don't think he's going to have the job. But if he does in a Superflex league, Hendon Hooker's going to have value, especially in a Lions offense that we really like. So give me Hendon Hooker there.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The only thing with Hooker for me is I do think the Lions extend Goff, and I think he's the guy. So I'm hesitant there. At the 307, I do think it's time. Bill Belichick loves interesting picks. And
should have taken him with the 3-6.
This guy is so talented, and he had the issue with all the stuff. He was asked to leave, asked to declare for the draft, and his draft stock obviously sunk. He showed up to the combine, didn't really impress a lot in his workouts and drills there. So it's sketchy. And he fell to the 6th round. I think that's more of a character thing than a talent thing with Kayshon Boutte. But he's just he seems so good, and to me, it doesn't make sense that he doesn't make some sort of an impact right away. They're just so devoid of talent on this Patriots team. Yeah. I think whoever the quarterback is, I think Boutte is going to get a decent shot at it.
Yeah, I mean, he's worth the risk here too. It's like the risk or reward thing. And realistically, like you just said at the end, I mean, it's they have, if he were to go to any team, he's on a team that doesn't have a lot of receiving talent. Right. So I don't know that he's really gonna hit or make an impact, but he will get an opportunity to. He will get some sort of opportunity to make an impact. At my next pick, I'm going to take Zach Evans, which, again, we're talking about the high upside thing, some of the character guys. I mean, sort of similar with Kayshon, and also sort of similar where I'm a big Cam Akers fan. I've been kind of pumping that all off season, as our friend Derek Brown has too. That, I mean, the Rams did not have the capital to add real competition for Cam Akers. I will stand by that. I drafted him in Dynasty startups. I was very comfortable with Cam Akers. And adding Zach Evans and me picking him here doesn't mean I'm not comfortable with Cam Akers. It's more so I'm not so comfortable with Kieran Williams and the guys behind Cam Akers, because I think Zach Evans will have a real chance to be Cam Akers' immediate backup as early as outside of camp. So if he's able to do that, Cam Akers hopefully stays healthy. But if he doesn't, Zach Evans is a good handcuff and a guy that has a lot of talent, that we're more worried again about the character and some of these other things. So I'll take him here and take the shot.
I like it. I can't really find a lot of fault with it. Going back to the 309, I'm going to take a guy that really I haven't heard anyone talking about in rookie drafts, and I really haven't seen him go, before the 4th round, and it's kind of interesting to me. This guy was a day 2 pick, and I think he's got a shot. Uh, obviously the quarterback situation is really weird, and you don't know what they're doing with DeAndre Hopkins just yet. It seems like they're going to keep him,
Mm,
but he does have some viability, and he really looked good at I can't remember whether it was the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl, but
mm.
Michael Wilson, could be a boundary guy. 6'2", 210 pounds. Like he could be a guy that is able to play nearly any position, wide receiver position for the Cardinals this year. And it'll be really interesting to me to see who is quarterbacking the Arizona Cardinals to start the season. They definitely have some options with Kyler Murray on the shelf, but I do think that Wilson, and despite his age, he's 23. I'll be 24 soon. The Deku capital really sways me. I think he gets involved. I think he gets involved pretty quickly, and I'm willing to take the shot on him at 309 there.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. At the 310, I'm going to take Tank Dell. He actually went a little earlier than I think a lot of people expected at pick 69 to the Texans. And, there's videos circulating now of him talking about, him and CJ Stroud's relationship and how they built it at the combine, and how CJ allegedly went and was, pushing for the Texans to take him. And again, it's just a wide open wide receiver room. I mean, Houston has Nico Collins, Robert Woods, Noah Brown, and Tank Dell, and like Xavier Hutchinson, another guy who they picked late.
John Mechie.
And John Mechie. But plenty of room, to compete for those jobs. I mean, Noah Brown's a guy who's been like a perennial backup for most of his career, aside from the Cowboys were desperate at the position as well. And he's small. He's have to be an outlier. He's like 5'8", 160 something. So I mean, he's very small. But Houston can hopefully find some fun ways to use him. And with him and CJ Stroud do have a good relationship already. Hopefully that, trickles into the season. So I got Tank Dell.
Yep, absolutely. And I have one more shock up my sleeve. And this is a guy who, when I have late picks, in the third or fourth rounds, mostly the fourth round, but for the sake of this exercise, I really want to fit him in here because I want to talk about him. I think the Cincinnati Bengals went ahead and planned for the future by drafting their contingency plan for Tyler Boyd slash, if something, happens to like T. Higgins or something like that. And I can't find him now, but they went ahead and drafted Charlie Jones. Look, they drafted him in the fourth round. And again, this is a spot that we've seen some wide receivers who have contributed right away come out of this area. And I think Charlie Jones is a really, really good slot receiver. Yes, he's undersized. Yes, he's like 175 pounds. I don't care. I think this kid was really good at Purdue. Aiden O'Connell, despite being, an NFL drafted quarterback, not the best quarterback I've ever seen. And now he gets to catch passes from Joe Burrow. So I'm really hyped for this kid. I really liked him when I watched Purdue in a couple games that I was betting against them because I couldn't find a reason to bet on Purdue last year. But I did watch Charlie Jones just catch pass over pass over pass. And this kid can run routes. He runs them really well. He's got, very good run after the catch ability. And I think he's very good. He runs a 4.43. That's going to be pretty key for me. And Tyler Boyd is, starting to, slow down a little bit. And they haven't shown that they wanted to use him that much. So give me Charlie Jones here. I really like this kid.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go to the same route here with the player, because I really don't know. I mean, there were a lot of guys that I would take, but we have one slot left, and I kind of want to fit him in here too. It's Puka Nacua, who I really think this will do. I mean, I live out here close to the Rams. This is just a Rams player, in my opinion. This is a guy who goes to the Rams, who went late, who we all kind of like but overlook. He's not going to get drafted early, and the Rams have a room of outside of Cooper Kupp of Van Jefferson and Ben Skowronek, and we'll see. I mean, they traded Allen Robinson. They don't really have anybody solidified at the other positions there. Puka just kind of feels like a Rams player. He feels like somebody who they're going to get the most out of. A guy who everybody else kind of slept on but liked. Like there were a lot of big people in the industry who loved Puka Nacua, who was like, he's our late wide receiver sleeper, and he goes to the Rams. just a situation that I think is going to be good for him. So
Yeah,
making that
that's
last
that's
pick.
definitely interesting to me. And I think that's a good slot for him. I know, our buddy Derek Brown was very high on him as well. So, but again, that's it for us. That was a full 3-round Dynasty rookie mock. That will be live on YouTube tomorrow morning, and live on podcast platforms sometime tomorrow as well. And I really enjoyed this, Jay. I thought this was very good thought exercise. I think we'll probably do a couple more out of these. Going through the next couple weeks, and I think there's plenty of hype around these dynasty rookie mocks right now as everyone dives into their rookie drafts.
Yeah, absolutely. This
Yep.
was really fun.
All right, guys, that is going to be it for us here at High Floor Football. As always, I'm Sam Wagman. He's Jay Arsh, and we will be back next week, as we always are on Tuesday nights.